We're back with another video. This month has definitely been interesting, and I'm excited to share with you my findings from digging and from the help of others. We have a wide array of albums to showcase today, and I'm now just realizing that this sounds like some kind of weird auction advert. So let's just jump into the first album before I start trying to pitch you something that you don't want or need. To open, let's start with a record that blew me away at first and then continued to blow me away more and more the more I listened to it. George Clanton's newest release since his 2018 record Slide U Rap Ya. This album is something absolutely euphoric, and the amount of sheer detail put into every single song is incredible. Each track has its own merits, each worth going in depth on, and I do in my review, at least about a good handful. This album feels like Clanton's victory lap around the track of the genres he already is a king of, such as chillwave, and then also experimenting with new sounds such as the old baggy movement from the 1980s, or elements of trip-hop and neo-psychedelia. He goes for all the goals on this record, and I believe that the 5-year wait was definitely worth it. 10 out of 10. What a way to open the video. Key tracks are Justify Your Life, I Been Young, You Hold the Key and I Found It, and the title track U Rap Ya. Taylor Swift returns with a new re-record. This time around, it's her sophomore record, Speak Now. Speak Now is probably her wordiest record before Folklore, obviously, and it's where she explored lyrical themes the most before developing a much more pop-centric sound by Red. Speak Now felt like an in-between of pure country rock and Red's much more pop-centric rock, and on Taylor's version of Speak Now, she keeps that country rock atmosphere intact with added flair, sass, and a little more maturity. All of the songs here are improvements on the originals. I think that goes without saying at this point. All of Taylor's versions are better than the songs that were stolen from her. She just keeps winning. I was most excited to hear the new rendition of Enchanted on this record, and it's safe to say I wasn't disappointed. But other cuts surprised me too, such as Mine, Dear John, and Last Kiss. The only real letdown from this album were the vault tracks, which for the most part are pretty lackluster at best, besides two of them. When Emma Falls in Love is one of them, and is another classic Taylor love song, but done at her best. And the other is I Can See You, which is a much more snarkier cut, and wouldn't go amiss on an album like Midnight's, if it was, released 13 years prior. 8 out of 10. Key tracks to check out are Mine, Dear John, Enchanted, Last Kiss, and I Can See You from the vault. I just realized how, ominous that sounds. It's just the song title. 1, 2, 3, go! Super Snooper is an album that was recommended to me for this video specifically, and I listened to it without much expectation, but I ended up really loving it. This album is incredibly short, only 22 minutes, but at that time, it manages to do so much without ever feeling overwhelming. It's just a joyride with bang after bang after banger. Even the weaker tracks have moments of memorability. Really good, fun, okay, the end. 9 out of 10. Key tracks are these. Okay, bye. Yes, I did do all of that in one single take, and no, I'm not redoing it. Afterlife Dating are no longer a post-rock band from Kentucky. Some artists like to slowly disappear into the night without any grand fanfare, while others like to go out with a bang. Afterlife Dating went out like a volcanic eruption. It's funny I even use that simile, because this album, well, song isn't even referring to the volcano, it's referring to the Lake Vesuvius in Ohio. This is an enormous album being only 2 songs, but still managing to clock in at 55 minutes in length. I feel even saying 2 songs is generous, as the opening track is only an intro for the title track. Now, I have actually listened to Afterlife Dating before. I listened to their self-titled LP that released last year while they went under the name Maya Is Dead Soon, and I enjoyed it, but I never included it in a video. Now, this album isn't just enormous in its length, but also in its undertaking. It manages to tackle a multitude of genres and sounds to build what I can only call something indescribable. I could sit here and throw genre names at you, but what good would that do? All I can really say is go listen to the album and let it absorb you. 9 out of 10. The album is basically one song, there are no key tracks besides the title track, so just listen to it. Opening an album with one of the best songs you've ever made always runs the risk of having every other song on the album feel like a letdown, or at least feel much more underwhelming in comparison to the opener. It's one of the reasons I've never been a massive fan of artists releasing their best songs as singles, as it leaves no surprises on the album. I am excited that there's going to be an 8-minute song on the new Jane Remover LP, but I don't want it to be a single because I want it to be a surprise. Abriction's Interstates has that issue, unfortunately. The opening track, Stargazing, is possibly one of the best black gaze songs I've ever heard. It does everything right. The passionate and raw vocals intertwined with voluptuous production. It's perfection. Mwah. But then you have the rest of the album, trying to follow along in its shadow, and it just feels a bit underwhelming. All of these songs on their own are great. Rose Gold, Purity, and Her Kiss in the Red Light, for example, are great and are definitely worth checking out on their own, but on the album, the 82-minute 9-track album, where a good portion of the songs are quite long, it drags a little. And I'm sorry to say that. I love long albums. If you know me, you know I love a good long drone record, but this doesn't do it for me, unfortunately. While the songs on their own are great, and some even really, really great, as a full record I find it hard to sit down and finish in one sitting. 7 out of 10. But that's mainly for the songs themselves being good, not the full record. Key tracks are all of the aforementioned ones basically, so Stargazing obviously, Rose Gold, Purity, and Her Kiss in the Red Light. I was looking forward to checking this record out as it looked really interesting and I'd seen some discussion online about it when it released. And I did like it, don't get me wrong, I just feel more variety could have been done here. The opener is stellar, but everything after that just feels like it's trailing in its shadow. All the other songs are still good, don't get me wrong, but because the album opens on such an incredibly high note, it's nearly impossible for it to reach that high note again. It has a similar issue to the previous album I talked about, Interstates, as that album's opener is also the best song by far. The other songs on here, such as The Well and The Closer, are still nice songs, especially The Closer, which is the closest the album comes to reaching those same heights. 7 out of 10. Check out The Glory of the Ocean and Relia. Blur return with their second comeback record. Not many bands can say that they've even reformed once to do one comeback record, let alone two. 8 years after their previous album, The Magic Whip, which came out 12 years after their previous record, Think Tank, we get The Ballad of Darren, Blur's latest foray into the musical landscape. Now, it isn't to say that the band members haven't been busy in the meantime. Obviously, Damon and Graham have their own musical project. I don't actually know what the other two do, to be honest, but I'm sure they have lives. Either way, it isn't like they've just been doing nothing for the past 8 or so years, so them coming back together isn't a major surprise, especially when you account for the fact that Damon and Graham have both been wanting to make another album for a while now anyway. But enough of all that. Is it actually any good? The Ballad of Darren is a good album, yes, but it isn't really a great Blur album. Now, what does that mean? Well, while a lot of the songs here are good, some are even great and on par with some of Blur's best, such as The Narcissist or Barbaric, but if you were to tell me that Blur would release a song like Barbaric, I probably wouldn't believe you. Or I would just go, yeah, that makes sense for Damon to do actually. I understand that bands evolve sonically over time, especially this amount of time, but that isn't really what this feels like. The Ballad of Darren is very comfortable with its sound and doesn't take any risks at all, which isn't very like Blur. Hell, even The Magic Whip took risks. That was quite an out there album when it wanted to be. The Ballad of Darren is a good album and I would recommend it, but not if you're new to the band, because it probably won't leave the best first impression. Still good though, you know, as a record of music. 7 out of 10. Key tracks are The Ballad, St. Charles Square, Barbaric, The Narcissist, and The Heights. It was the loneliest of times, it was the loveliest of times, or something like that. Carly returns with a new album, a sister album to be precise. Now, this isn't anything new for Carly. She's been doing this sort of thing since she released Emotion. Emotion received a B-Sides EP a year later, and Dedicated received a whole B-Sides album a year after its release. So it would make perfect sense for the loneliest time to receive the same treatment, right? Well, it did. To an extent. One of the things with releasing a B-Sides record or compilation is a lot of the time it goes overlooked, as a lot of people deem the songs on there just as scraps or songs that weren't good enough for the main release. But a lot of the time that isn't the case. Sometimes songs are just written at the wrong time and are shelved with the future, and a lot of the time those futures are B-Sides. Wrong place, wrong time sort of thing. I feel that Carly wanted to get rid of that notion with this record by changing the usual naming scheme. Instead of just naming it The Loneliest Time Side B, we got The Loveliest Time, which feels like a true sister or companion record to The Loneliest Time. It's also a much better record, in all honesty. It seems that Carly lets herself loose on this album and doesn't feel constrained with the things she may have felt restricted by on The Loneliest Time. There are a lot of new sounds on this record, especially a very psychedelic infused one. Songs such as Collage and Psychedelic Switch have incredibly psychedelic undertones sonically, and don't really sound like anything I've heard from her before. We then also have the usual absolute bangers such as Kamikaze, which I really do believe is one of, if not her best songs since Run Away With Me. I know, bold statement. But there's a lot to delve into and enjoy here, and if you haven't already checked it out, I would highly recommend it. You don't even have to have heard The Loneliest Time prior, but I would also recommend it because that's also a good record. 9 out of 10. The key tracks here, and there are a lot of them: Kamikaze, Collage, Psychedelic Switch, So Right, Come Over, and Put It to Rest. I always like to dip my toes into genres I'm more unfamiliar with, and give every album an equal chance because, who knows, maybe I'll find my next answer from up there. I didn't happen to this time, but Event Horizon is still a pretty decent album to throw on and vibe to. It's tightly produced and fun to listen to, and it's one of the first times listening to an album like this that I found myself not growing bored of the ideas being presented. It managed to remain fresh for the entirety of its runtime, and while there were one or two dud tracks, mainly the interludes, it overall felt quite refreshing to listen to. I can actually see myself returning to this at some point. 7 out of 10. Some key tracks are Entropy, Mission, Never Coming Back, and Arrival. Travis Scott finally returns with his newest release, UTOPIA, which has been hyped up since its initial announcement in, I believe, 2020, so it's been a while. Does it live up to the enormous hype that has been built around it, or does it fall flat on its face? Well, it doesn't really do either. For me, this album just feels like another album. It is a good beginning and a good end, but I can't help but feel that it becomes rather bloated in the center and around the edges, to the point where a good 9 to 10 of these songs could have easily been cut out and the album would have been much better. There are some major standouts and songs that I do still return to, such as the opener Hyena, the songs My Eyes, Schizo, and the two final songs, and then there are a handful of others that are worth checking out too. But then you have songs like Fane and Topia Twins, which really don't land, and I struggle to understand why they were included, unless I'm just missing something and I'm the stupid one, who knows. Either way, 7 out of 10. If you think that's too high, then fuck you, this is my video, I can do whatever I want. Key tracks are Hyena, My Eyes, Circus Maximus, Schizo, and Telekinesis. This album is fucking stupid. Stupid Cybergrind, fucking stupid Nintendo Core. What is Nintendo Core? Fucking stupid fuck. 7 out of 10. Sky underscore minus 2022 underscore 133 underscore .mp3. The Clown Man and 2 Virgils. Fucking, this album's fucking stupid, but I liked it. Very BCNR, I hear you cry out. But wait! Because this album is so much more than just that. While, yes, the album title bears a striking resemblance to Black Country New Road's newest full-length LP, Ants From Up There, this Is The Glasshouse's As Small As Ants stands out amongst the crowd due to its spread of influences and soundscapes. It's clear that the band, practically ensemble, as just under 30 people were involved in the making of this album, had a wide variety of inspirations while making this record, and it shows. I could draw the comparison to the likes of Jordan Mason or Mao Tui. At certain points elements of Sufjan crop up too, especially on the instrumental tracks. The overall atmosphere of the album is incredibly comforting and welcoming, and it makes me feel at home while listening, wanting to listen to it again and again without even realizing that nearly an hour has passed each time. It's just sequenced so well. I can't recommend this album enough, and while there are definitely aspects, and full songs, that you could definitely call Black Country New Road inspired, this entire record is definitely its own thing and wants to stand on its own, not in another record's shadow. 9 out of 10. I'd recommend checking out the tracks I Was an Ocean, I Was a River, Wolf and Shark, Pink, Naked, Winter's Arrived, and Annie. So a good handful, and honestly it's difficult to pick favourites from this album. It's all done so well. Just listen to the full thing, you'll love it. You know how I mentioned earlier about finding my next Ants From Up There? Well, while this might not be exactly it, I think it's the closest I've got this year. iANO's newest full-length release, What Will We See, is an absolutely magical experience that before I say anything more, I implore you to listen to. It's an album that feels perfectly crafted to make me feel safe and to whisk me away to a world where no harm can come to me. Everything about this album is gorgeous, if that's the production, which is incredibly grouper-inspired, or the stunning vocals, which while are put much more on the back burner, causing the lyrics to be practically indecipherable, that doesn't matter. It even adds to the charm. It feels like walking through a forest and hearing it sing to you softly. You don't exactly know what it's saying, but you do know that it's welcoming you into its arms. You might be scared at first, but don't be. This place is safe. I promise. What Will We See is one of the best albums I've heard all year, and I believe has also been criminally overlooked, so please go check it out. 10 out of 10. Key tracks, just all of them. Go listen to the album, please. And now we move on to the EPs and singles of the month, and hoo boy, there were some good singles, and actually some decent EPs too this month, so let's get into them. To open, we receive a small quote-unquote DLC pack from JPEGMAFIA and Danny Brown, featuring outtakes from their most recent record, Scaring the Hose. Scaring the Hose was amazing, but I think most people can agree with that. Do these songs hold a candle to the full record though? Is the DLC as good as the full game? Well, No is the short answer, but for a longer answer, which I'm sure is what you came here for, this EP is really solid and all of these songs are still on equal playing field. I would honestly say they're all as good as each other, and that's still pretty good. Peggy and Danny can't seem to do any wrong, but I can definitely see why these songs weren't included on the full record. If you enjoyed the full album, you'll like this. If you didn't, then well, you still might like some of it. It's definitely less intense than the record, and you probably won't scare off as many women. Probably. 8 out of 10. I actually don't know how long it's been since we last saw Aphex Twin, but I know it's been a while. His last record was Cyro in 2014, and his last EP was Collapse in 2018. So maybe it hasn't been as long as I thought. Either way, he returns with a nice new EP, which I'm not going to say the full name of because it's annoyingly long. I will however shorten it to simply Black Box Live Recorder. Black Box Live Recorder is incredibly solid and features the staples of any good Aphex Twin project. It's clear he hasn't lost his touch, and all of the songs on here are memorable, unique, and have a special touch. Are they as good as his past greats? No, not really, but that doesn't matter. This is meant to be a small little package and I'm viewing it as such. 9 out of 10. Better Lover's debut EP is nothing short of incredible. Every song in here hits incredibly hard, and I give it a major recommend to any fan of the metalcore or mathcore genre. These songs are masterfully crafted, and even at its lowest points, mainly the opener, it still manages to remain solid and consistent, and then at its best, it's brutal and in your face. But I keep coming back to it. Big recommend even if you aren't a massive fan of metal-esque music. Give it a go, it's only like 15 minutes. 9 out of 10. And the first single we have to talk about is of course the long anticipated single from Big Thief, Vampire Empire. I'm not going to get into the controversy behind the song and how the live version was better and this version is shit, because personally I adore this song. I love how it sounds, I love how angrily sexual Adrian's vocals are. The song feels full of love and passion, and I think that's exactly how it should sound. Lesbians rule. Honestly, I was floored by this song when I first heard it. This is quite the sound change for Mitski, but going from a previous record, I can see where it came from. It's slow and somber, and definitely focuses much more heavily on Mitski's lyrics and vocals, which is good because her writing here is absolutely superb. The song opens with one of her best verses, and the entire song is just depressingly gorgeous. Mitski is back, and I am very excited for this upcoming album. This song feels like a proper return to form. While I really enjoyed their album Time Skiffs from last year, and the single they just released Defeat, this song really feels like old school iANO to me. Reminds me heavily of their Sung Tongs and Feels era sound, and that makes me very excited for what this upcoming album might feel like. Some psyche folk done by iANO is something I will never get tired of. Spelling is an artist whose back catalogue I'm not really that familiar with. I've only heard a smash hit album from 2021, The Turning Wheel, so I didn't even know that these two songs are songs from her previous records but re-recorded. What's with artists re-recording all their older stuff now? Either way, these two songs are fun. I definitely prefer Under the Sun over Cherry, but both songs are worth your time, especially if you enjoy Spelling's music. I don't know how well they hold up next to the originals, but I'm sure it isn't really her intent for them to be held up next to the originals. I would presume these re-recordings are to bring new life and ideas into older songs and add things she didn't originally, or to just completely rework the songs from the ground up. I'll definitely be talking about it more in depth when I talk about her newest release, Spelling and the Mystery School. This was written on the 4th of September, so as of writing this and recording this, the album is already out, so I will cover it in my next video. Unless I hate it or something. I don't think I've hidden how much I adore Ethel Cain's music, and I'm extremely excited for her upcoming B-Sides EP or record. I don't actually know what it'll be yet, for Preacher's Daughter. I also don't know if this song is a B-side for Preacher's Daughter or not, but it would make perfect sense if it was. The lyrics fit really well with the narrative of Preacher's Daughter. It almost feels like some kind of epilogue, which given the name of the song would make sense. If you know, you know. This song is to be one of the most beautiful pieces she's put out to date, which is definitely saying something. Everything about the song is absolutely spellbinding, whether it's the dreamy, encapsulating, and just fucking unreal production, or Anhedonia's ethereal vocals that never fail to stun me. This woman can do no wrong, honestly. She can also do whatever she wants to me. I love trashy 2010s pop, and this song is just that. It feels like a love letter to all of those shitty pop songs that topped the charts in the 2010s. The Keshas, the Lady Gagas, and the Rihannas. The production is incredibly reminiscent of those times, and so the lyrics. It's just fun, and Wall Socket is going to be Album of the Year. I wasn't expecting to hear another pop-oriented song from Poppy anytime soon, but here we are. Knockoff is the most recent single from our upcoming record Zig, and it's quite a different direction to her previous single Church Outfit. Spit was only a cover and isn't going to be featured on the album, so unfortunately I can't compare it, but it is also different to that. It still feels industrial and bassy, but it has a much heavier emphasis on the pop sound, and I really like it. I actually like it much more than Church Outfit. Poppy's always been one to play around with incredibly heavy and in-your-face genres, and blending them with much tamer and more vibrant genres, and once again, she's done it here. Now she's calling a cab, yes she's calling a cab. That was terrible, oh my god. Courting Our Back Baby, and they return with a catchy, slightly campy and incredibly fun indie rock tune. This wouldn't go amiss amongst the Killers or the Arctic Monkeys' early stuff. It's definitely a change from their post-punk sound, but they're taking it with stride and they're just having fun, and I really like it. It's definitely a grower, not a shower, but give it some time and I think you'll really start to like it. When I see an artist I don't recognise fly to the top of the charts on RAM, I never know what to expect, but I always get very excited. Looking at the genre tags for this song, I was incredibly intrigued, just overall really wanted to dig into this song. And oh my god, is this one of the best singles I've heard all year. Everything is on point and perfect down to the simplest rhythm. I'd never heard of Róisín Murphy? I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Until now, but I wish I had. She is stunning, and I'll be sure to listen to her upcoming album. This was written before the comments. I don't know. We'll see what happens, I suppose, in the coming weeks before the release of the record. I'll probably still listen to it, but we'll go from there. And to close out the video, we have an absolutely enormous single from SUPERCOLLIDER, who released an album earlier this year. I talked about it too. This time around though, she ain't messing around with dream pop and shoegaze. I Complain Multitudes is a full-on totalist post-rock, noise rock, experimental rock amalgamation that, to get it out of the way, is, yes, very Swans inspired. A song like this would not go amiss on any of the trilogy albums, but I would consider that a compliment due to how good it actually is. This is a 21-minute track, but not a minute of it feels wasted. The song's a direction and it goes in it. It feels full, it feels whole, and I can actually wrap my head around it as if it were a normal song. It doesn't fill to the brim with ideas that go nowhere, nor is it generally just messy. I genuinely think SUPERCOLLIDER could have what it takes to make a full-on post-rock / experimental rock record with this and some of Going to Hell and Taking You With Me sound. Just superb stuff. And with that, we are done with July. I know it is September, and I'm sorry for the delay once again, but if you saw my update video, then you know why this took a bit longer. Hopefully the August video won't take as long, because I'm going to try and do it in a different fashion than this one. This video it was messy, to say the least, in the way I structured my routine around making the video. So I want to be able to, I want to change the way I do it. And because the videos are becoming a bit more complicated now, if you may have noticed, this video had more stuff going on. I want to, you know, stuff. But either way, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like or whatever, and you can donate to my Ko-fi down below, because this video may or may not be monetized. Well, not even that, but it'll be copyrighted because of the music playing, or you can just subscribe. That's also good, and enough, to be honest. It helps, it motivates me, especially recently. Other than that, I'll see you either next month, or well, I say next month, whenever I get the August video out, which might not be the end of September, it might be sooner than that, and I may even see you before then, because I have some other videos planned that are smaller, or just like other videos in general, so hopefully, yeah. Either way, I'm rambling now. Hope you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter /X. Follow me on Blue Sky if you have that. And subscribe, like, and go listen to the records, because that's the point of these videos. I need to breathe. I can't.